Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Mark Della Pietra with the SMPS headquarters staff. Today's webinar, we will cover information regarding the call for presentations for Build Business Power Play, the SMPS 2014 annual conference. Before we begin, just want to go over a few quick housekeeping items. You'll see an orange arrow in the top left. You can use that to expand the GoToWebinar or hide the GoToWebinar panel. There's a questions box where you can type in your questions to the presenters. And you can also ask a voice question. If you click the raise hand button, we will unmute your line. There will be a Q&A period at the end of the program, but you can feel free to type in questions as we go, and we'll address them either during the program or when we get to that Q&A period. And at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Brad Thurman, incoming president of SMPS. Brad?
Thank you, Mark. Welcome, everybody. This is kind of a first-of-a-kind event. We've never had a pre-submittal seminar or webinar like this before, so welcome. What we wanted to do is give each of you the opportunity, almost like a pre-bid or a pre-proposal meeting, to be able to sit down and ask questions of the owner on what we're looking about, the intent of where we're going with the program. Very importantly, it's up for questions and answers, so please raise your hand or type your questions with anything that we can ask for you. Getting a little bit into the concept of what the theme of the conference is. The theme of the conference is power play, and when we came up with that concept, we came up with a number of things, and some of this is written up in the call for presentation. We looked at the two words, power and play. Obviously it's about work hard, play hard, but it's also about the word power play combined, and the fact that maybe winning when you're man up on the competition and still finding a way to win when you're a man down. So we started looking at contrasts, the way words play off of each other. And what we always want to do is push our members to grow. We want them to thrive, to celebrate their successes. We always want them to reach out to that next ring, take that next step. So all of this is about trying to inspire, trying to push our members into being more they can be, and constantly moving the profession forward. So that's a very quick kind of overview of the concept of the conference, and with that, I will turn it over to, I believe, Melissa is going to take the first part.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brad. This is Melissa Rysak, and I, along with Matt Rebro, will be co-chairs for programming for this year's conference. We are both really excited to begin the process of getting the program situated for 2014. Now that you've heard the vision from Brad, let's get into some of the details of the tracks. And these tracks are going to enable us to bring the vision of this conference to a reality. My co-chair, Matt, and I are going to briefly outline each track and its intent so that you have an understanding of where your ideas for your program will fit in. The first track is Elevate Leadership. To achieve greatness as a leader in these organizations today, you need more than technical knowledge. You need more than marketing, more than business development, more than operation systems. You need to have the whole leadership picture. Leaders need to elevate. Leaders need to constantly be moving their organizations and the people around them forward. But how do you do that? How do you inspire others to follow you? We are looking for sessions that are going to demonstrate not outside or inside the box thinking, but an entirely new box to work with. These ideas have to be new. They have to not be ideas that have been seen before. And they have to be ideas that are going to stimulate people into leaving this conference and spur them into action. So for the leadership track, we really need some creative thinking in what the future of leadership is going to be. When I think of power play, I think of Gretzky's famous quote about skating to where the puck is going to be, not where it was. And that's what we're looking for in the leadership track. Where is the next generation going to be? And now I'll turn it over to Matt.
So for the next section, the Connect Business Development track, I was thinking to myself, I've been doing business development in this industry for a little over 15 years, and certainly I have my days where the ways I've done it before may not have been quite as effective, or somebody brings in a new idea that just completely turns my turns my head around and makes me excited to continue really focusing in on what I have a passion for, which is business development. So as a audience member the last few years, looking for those tracks where I can have my head just completely spinning because a presenter brought in a great new idea, new concept that our industry may not be necessarily as focused on or maybe hadn't adopted before. You know, I want people literally to be able to walk out of this and say, I need to start putting that practice into place tomorrow because I could see the benefit for myself and our organization. So hopefully there's individuals on this call or individuals submitting that can just bring in creative new ideas that our people that have business development responsibilities for their respective firms can really put into place tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, I think that's one of the keys for all these is that our members can walk away from the conference with practical steps and approaches to putting stuff into place tomorrow. Melissa?
Thanks, Brent. Yep. Looking at track 3, impact, marketing, and communications. Positioning, branding, and messaging are all vital parts of successful marketing and communications. But it's challenging right now to differentiate ourselves when everyone is doing the same things to be different. So the summary of this track is that it must teach differentiation differently. Show our attendees a new way to look at the same topics, the same approaches, bring new ideas and new concepts. We need to know what the future of marketing and communications are going to be. We need to stimulate new thinking. We need to try to have people look at things in unconventional ways. Marketing and communications can have so much influence on successful outcomes and can bring such a dramatic impact to the bottom line when done well. So we're looking for instruction for our attendees on how they can really take a very different approach to differentiation. And speaking of a different approach, we look at track 4, which is creativity, a track that Build Business has not seen for a while. We are looking to blow the minds of our attendees. We are looking for inspiration, no straight lines allowed. Let's look at creative thinking to drive change, creativity to drive innovation. What new things can they bring back to their offices and immediately start to look at differently? We feel that this track is important because the veterans in our organization, they need to be reminded that they constantly have to be thinking creatively and not get stuck in any ruts. And equally important is teaching veteran or rookies to our industry how to be visionary and how to think creatively. Matt?
Matt, are you there?
Sorry about that. I was on mute. Just wanted to touch base on the client panels. And Melissa, Brad, or Mark, please jump in if I'm off base on this. But I believe in the past, a lot of times the client panels, the client situations where someone's up telling us about their business and how they hire firms like us. A lot of times in the past, we maybe had committee members that helped pull those together. And we may end up doing parts of that again for 2014, but we didn't want to limit ourselves in how we've done it before. So if you've got a client relationship where you think you could, again, pull something together that's very, very creative and different that people just haven't seen before, where maybe it's you're firing questions at a client about how they selected somebody or didn't select somebody. Just really think differently and put clients in a situation where they're hopefully comfortable being spontaneous, or just something that we just have never seen before. So we didn't want to limit ourselves to how we've done it before. So if you've got a good idea, a good relationship with a client that's willing to put their their hearts out there for our members, we want to make sure that this session and this track has lots of individuals sitting in seats where they're walking away from the session, going back to their owners, their principals, and stating, I learned how that healthcare system operates so much better now that the next time we pursue work with them, we're going to be in a better position to win work. So hopefully that gives a much better understanding what where we're going with the client panels at this point. Mark? So just again, some criteria and process that we just want to reiterate. We're only focusing on original presentations. We have lots of friends, I believe, that are even on this call that have been supportive of the conference before. We want to see you again. But we want to challenge you, as Brad had stated in the opener, that new and creative is what we're absolutely focused on. If we've seen it again, it won't get past the sniff test, so to speak. So think about that as you're submitting. Think about the criteria that we put down on paper, and follow it verbatim, so that the people that are reviewing them, they may not have ever heard of you before, but that's all right. If you follow the instructions verbatim, we're going to have a good committee that's going to review them and treat them fairly. Next one, Mark. So the submissions, as you can see, are due on September 16th, 11:59 p.m. If there's any questions between now and then, I guess we would open this up after Mark gives you a little more details of the process of what happens once the submissions come in the door.
Yes. So just as a very rough timeline, and actually going back a little bit to something that Matt was talking about as far as the selection criteria, he mentioned, when putting together a proposal, we may not know you, but include all the information. The opposite is true. If we don't know, if you believe that if you're well known in the industry, make sure you include all the information. Just as a couple of tips that we get, all the reviewers may not know you when we get into that review phase. So don't assume that the session reviewers or the conference committee know you. Include your bio, include why it is that you're the right person for this presentation, include your photo, all those things. Don't try and cover all attendees in one session. Focus on your presentation on your target audience. One thing that we see sometimes with sessions that don't get selected is they've gone into experience level and they've checked entry, mid, and senior level. And sometimes the presentation just can't cover all of those. And the other thing just to keep in mind, and if it's not in the proposal, it's not going to be considered. So make sure it's as complete as you want it. You got to sell it to the reviewers. So as Matt was saying, the submission deadline is September 16th. After the submission, what will happen is a peer review process will start. Usually about 20 or 30 SMPS members and people from outside the industry will review sessions. They will score those. They will make some recommendations. The committee will meet in late October to review all of those scores, talk about sessions, and develop the preliminary program. One of the things that some submissions might require is a short video, just to get an idea if we don't know you or your presentation style, what is it? And just a short video. So if you get to that short list period and we need a video, I or somebody else from the staff will be contacting you, and it's something you can take with an iPhone or something. It doesn't have to be anything fancy of presenting in front of an audience. It's just really a way for the committee to get to know you and know that you can get up there in front of an SMPS audience and give a presentation. And then the goal is to have the final program submitted and finalized in late November, early mid-December, so that we can start promoting it by the end of December, so that we can start getting people in for that early bird deadline, which will be sometime in February.
Hey, Mark, real quick.
Yes.
I was going to jump in. I'm hoping there's some people on this call that maybe SMPS is relatively new, just to back up and take it even a higher level. So the national conferences in San Antonio, what's the average attendance at a national conference? So
as far as an average, it's usually about 750 to 800 individuals, mostly mid-level marketing and business development professionals, from a majority of engineering, but also architecture and engineering firms. And we do generally like to offer there will be a lot of senior members there, but the core is that mid-level. But we also get a fair number of entry-level people. So we try and make sure that we have a balanced program to cover all of those different groups.
In sessions, depending on the topic and depending on what's going on in terms of the presentation times, you could easily see upwards of a couple hundred people in a breakout session.
And I'd like to tag on to Mark's comments about the level of experience of the attendees. One thing to keep in mind when you're putting this together, when you're talking about things, what we don't necessarily want is something that's geared exactly to where somebody is in their career right now. Potentially it could be something that's geared to the next step in their career. So if you're thinking that it's something that is good for somebody that's in the 1 to 5 years, it may be something that you would say would normally be somebody that's in their 6 to 10 years of experience is doing. Because what we're trying to do is help, like I said, help them reach for that next step and to show them that there is a career path and there are steps that they can take through the profession of AEC marketing and business development. And so we don't want to just give them, we want to give them something they can go back and use, but want them to use to elevate themselves, not necessarily just to do their job, their day in, day out jobs.
Good point.
So I think we're at Q&A, unless Melissa, Matt, or Brad, you have anything else you'd like to add. You can enter your questions into the chat box or the questions and answers box. We're monitoring both. If you'd like to ask a question over the phone, click raise your hand, and I will unmute your line so that we can see.
Mark, I would like to add one thing, if you don't mind. This is Melissa. And hopefully while I'm doing that, if anyone has questions, they can start to either type them or raise their hand. But I do want to add that I have a relatively unique perspective coming into this conference because I did have the privilege of being the programs chair for last. And I will tell you that there was some wonderful content that was submitted for Build Business 2013 that did not make our agenda because the proposal was not done well. We could read between the lines and try to figure out what the submitter was trying to say, but if the submitter did not come out and say what their content was, their learning objectives, and how this was going to benefit the conference, we did not select it. So the moral to the story, spend time on your submission. Say what you mean what you say, be clear, be concise. Make sure that you're not speaking in generalities of what you could present. Tell us what you're going to present, because your submission matters. Your topic and the fact that you've presented before, whether for SMPS or other conferences, is not going to be relevant if your proposal is not clear and concise and compelling. So please take the time, really flesh out your topic, and do a wonderful submission so that we can select it.
Thanks for that, Melissa. The number of questions have been coming in. So I will answer one just before we get started. I logged in a few minutes late. Where can I find the specifications for the submittal? We are recording this program, so I will share that I will email that recording to everybody who is registered, and we'll include the link to the online form and the call for presentations. But it's also on the Build Business, www.buildbusiness.org website. But we will send that after the program as well. There was a number of questions in here. Why did the steering committee decide to move to topical categories for 2014 instead of the 2013 categories based on experience levels in the industry? Anybody want to?
Brad, did you want to handle that one?
I can handle that one. The categories that they used this year was something new that they tried, and I think it worked out for them. What we had already worked on our call before conference, and so at that point in time, we decided that we wanted to go with a track that's under a topic rather than by year. And the reason is it kind of alludes back to the point that I made a minute ago. We don't want somebody who has 1 to 5 years of experience being afraid to go to a 6 to 10 year track because they don't think that it's appropriate for them. So what we want to do is be able to get people in tracks for where they are and aspire them up to the next level. So it was really just kind of a decision to do it based on functionality rather than experience in the industry.
Great, thank you. There was another question. What sessions at this year's conference blew you away with new ideas? Or maybe something you've seen somewhere else at another industry event?
I'll quickly jump in just in terms of a tactic that I saw that was I thought so great was Laura Ewan, I believe, used video from her company to capture a video testimonial from coworkers, and so I think it was Dana Galvin from Barton Mallow. They both captured video from their coworkers back in their offices that was reinforcing what they were putting up on the screen in terms of bullet points. So it wasn't just them preaching about what had been done. You're hearing it was very personal. It was comedic in some regards, very serious in other ways. But it just it brought it home for me.
Anybody else on that, or we can go to another question?
Well, to me, the sessions that speak the most to me are the ones that really engage the attendees. You know, it's not just a stand and deliver type of presentation, and everybody that's listening to this understands that. But you know, it's not just about a PowerPoint show. It's about finding ways to engage them, open up dialogue, challenge them. You know, things like that. Workshops are great if people want to do that sort of format. But I think just involving the audience to where you feel like you've participated in the program while you were there are the programs that appeal to me the most.
So another question that had come in: if we reformulated an existing presentation completely for SMPS that may have been given at another conference, would that be okay?
Probably not. It would have to be Matt and Melissa, jump in on this if you want. It would have to be a pretty significant reformulation to the point to where you didn't even realize that it was another version of what was given before.
And I would like to add, I agree with you, Brad. I think that there's a difference, though, between a presentation that's been given before and reformulated and a presentation topic that was submitted to a conference but not accepted.
True.
And you have since been debriefed on why it wasn't accepted, and you make major modifications so that it's really not the same submission that was rejected, and you have modified based on the input you were given. But I would suggest that if the topic was presented before a reformulation or not, it's most likely not going to make the cut.
As an example, we talked today with a gentleman that's working with us on another portion of the conference who is from Vancouver, and he was talking about a conference that, I can't remember which conference it was, Mark, but it was a speakers conference, I believe. And he said he doesn't go anymore, and they asked him why, and he said it's because all of the speakers from the conference were all basically made up of speakers from the last 4 or 5 years, and he was looking for something new. And I think that's kind of what we're looking for here is it's not anything against anything that's been presented before, and if people have presented before, that's great, but we're really looking for something that's not a derivative of something that they've heard at a regional conference. It's not necessarily a derivative of something that they heard in Orlando or in San Francisco. We're looking for really fresh, new, invigorating conversations.
Great. Thank you. There was another good question that came in. How many submissions do you typically get, and how many can you accept? And I'll take that one. We usually get about 120 or so submissions. The committee usually can only slot between 25 and 30 sessions, depending on how many tracks and how many sessions and all that is going on. So it is there are a ton of great submissions that come in that the committee just can't program, and oftentimes there will be 2 or 3 on social media or 2 or 3 on branding, and we only want one of those at the conference. So just know that any submission that comes in, what we do is we share that with the SMPS chapters, the regional planning committees, and the folks that do the SMPS national webinar. So even if you put something together and it's not selected for the national conference, we're still sharing that proposal with other audiences within SMPS who are also looking for presenters. And I know, while we can only take 25 or 30 for the conference, another 10, 15, or 20 of those probably get picked up every year for a chapter event or a regional conference or for a webinar. And along those same lines, there was a question about how many you can submit. I believe the system will limit you to 4 submissions. There's a question, if selected, would it be possible to contact interested audiences before the conference in order to distribute some advanced materials like a short survey or pre-session knowledge quiz to save time during the workshop-oriented sessions? I don't know, Matt or Melissa, you have any thoughts on that? I will say that we can certainly figure out a way to do that. If it's a survey to inform the presentation, then that's really easy, and we can absolutely help with that. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that they're coming to a session until they walk in the door. They're standing outside trying to figure out what session they're going to go to. So it's a little bit more difficult, but if you've got an idea, I think we're willing to try and figure out how to make it happen.
I completely support that stance, and I think it'd be phenomenal if somebody wanted to make that happen. We'd love to figure out a way to support it.
Any other, there are no hands up. I think we've gotten through the questions. Last chance, Matt, Melissa, do you want to share any final recommendations or thoughts or advice?
The only other thing I was going to state, one of our conference chairs, Jennifer Johnson, had stated to me, and I thought I'd throw this out to the group while we have everybody. We're talking about programs specifically here and what people will be presenting. But if anybody on this call has ideas they've seen at other conferences that really just, they were aha moments, whether it was how you were greeted, how the signage, just room setups that help facilitate a great experience for you as an attendee, we do want to hear about those. Again, we're concentrating on programs right now, but we're one part of a greater whole. So if you have ideas, we are certainly welcome to receiving those so that we can make sure the user experience is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's a great point, Matt. One of the things that we have talked about in the planning with this conference is focusing on the attendee experience. Basically wrapping the conference around them and heightening that user experience. Your submissions and the programs that are selected go a long way towards that. But we're looking for any and all ideas of like Matt said, aha moments, things that really resonate with you at other conferences, or even just thoughts, even if they're not things you've seen at other conferences, just thoughts that you have. Please share those with us.
And to that point, somebody just asked to whom you can send them. I will include contact information in the email following up on this email. Certainly staff, my email is just mark, M-A-R-K, @smps.org. Right. Is the easiest way, and anything I get we'll share with the committee, but I'm sure Matt, Melissa, and Brad would all welcome any feedback you have, and right. Their information's in MySMPS and the new MySMPS app.
And Jennifer Johnson and Carolyn Ferguson, the co-chairs of the conference, would be happy to receive those too.
But I will include that in the follow-up email. Unless anybody has anything else, I will thank everybody for making the time for this and say good luck with your proposals.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.